is an important milestone in our road to the Finance for Development conference in Seville, Spain, where this debate will also be put out there, and the first results of what the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty has been working on since launch. You have just watched the video that was prepared for that launch in November 2024 for the G20 summit. And since then, we have been hard at work with the members, the organizations, the countries, in piloting the approach of the Global Alliance. And that will require the efforts of many members, many institutions. So I am here with sort of two hats, two roles. I am the Special Advisor for International Affairs in the Ministry of Social Development and Assistance, Family and Fight Against Hunger of Brazil. But I'm also part of what we are calling the interim support team. The Global Alliance will have a permanent secretariat that will be called a support mechanism that is part of the core mandate in the founding documents that were approved by the G20, and this is already being set up, resourced, and in the process of selection of a permanent staff that will be based and hosted by FAO, but will have an independent operation with different country offices. So I know you hear more of that from our panelists here. But in the meantime, while this operation is ongoing, so Brazil has offered to set up the interim support mechanism as well, and we are working together as a team throughout different ministries. My ministry, the Ministry of Social Development, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also IPEA, our national think tank on applied economic and policy. So this, we have been carrying out the vision that President Lula had for the Global Alliance and all the G20 members and the other countries and organizations that joined the alliance and started contributing to this mechanism. So I'm here to report very briefly on these results, and you hear from the other panelists as well how that has been working, and our hopes and that this approach can be a really innovative and transformative way to do development cooperation, development finance for hunger and poverty. So why the Global Alliance was proposed by President Lula and then discussed and launched with so much support. Now there are 188 members of the Alliance, and I know that we will hear some good news from today for some additional members from the Caribbean. We are very happy about that. But why has it met so much support and consensus in a very divisive political moment, as you see? Because it has come to fill an important gap. So we have been backed by international reports that the G20 task force has commissioned to study the design of the Global Alliance and the diagnosis of the international situation. And what we saw from those reports is a very worrying, or I would say so far as to say a failed scenario for international cooperation, that in general it has failed the international community in many sectors, but even more so for SDGs 1 and 2. So in some sectors, such as in health, for instance, we have seen some good successes, very large, big vertical funds, being able to push things and move and create a difference in health sectors, for instance, in vaccination. All of that is now a bit in jeopardy because of very recent events. But at any rate, there have been examples in some sectors where there has been action that has been able to move things structurally, while for SDGs 1 and 2, for the fight against hunger and poverty, what we do see is a very, very fragmented international scenario. We do see a lots of bilateral donors and agencies with their particular priorities, their particular approaches. financing small pilots or setting up a number of small trust funds to support this, to support that. And the countries, the implementing countries, many times they are juggling a multitude of different donors, MDBs, bilaterals, agencies, all offering cooperation that is not really looking at their priorities. They're all doing different things in the country. Sometimes for an average, one of the reports said that in this space for hunger and poverty, the average transaction from development cooperation was less than $1 million. So what can you do with less than $1 million except for some small projects in some communities? When the resources end, the program ends. So instead, we wanted to reignite the drive, and we know from Brazilian experience and from the experience of other countries in Latin American, Caribbean, in other continents, that what is really successful to reduce poverty and hunger quickly, it's well implemented, large-scale national programs. Programs such as Brazil's cash transfer, world famous Bolsa Familia, Mexico's Oportunidades. There are many more examples of these programs around the world, but they are in the national budget, they are well-resourced, they have knowledge, they have technical support for all of these things. And while Brazil has been lucky to be in a condition to, even with all our failures, implement these programs and sustain them over time. So the idea is that many other countries are not yet in these conditions to do so many of these programs. So many of them are trying, and in all cases, all countries, even developed countries, can benefit from the exchange of knowledge based on evidence on what works. So the Alliance has the support mechanism and has a governance with all the members, a board of champions to help untie knots and blockages, but it is not there to just promote exchanges. It is there to work with countries one by one, based on their needs, based on the idea of implementing a large-scale country-owned national program that is referenced in the Alliance's policy basket. So if you go to the website, there will be a policy basket with all the instruments that have been put there, and this is a living instrument. There are many more references that all the member countries can contribute to, their own experiences, their projects. And the country can request assistance specifically for that program implementation. So the Alliance and the support mechanism will work with that country to make these demands very clear, and then work throughout the network of partnerships. So it is not another fund. It doesn't receive money or disburse money. It will work with bilaterals, with MDBs, with IFIs to create something consistent, larger scale, impactful, for that purpose of the country. So we are putting the international cooperation upside up again, because it has been upside down for a while. So it is the country program first, and then we see the partners have to adapt to that program, each one with their strengths, of course. So that is the vision, that is the approach, and we are now piloting what we call, apologize for that, the fast-track implementation approach. So even if in these early stages of the Alliance implementation, while the full support team is not yet ready, but we have worked with a few identified countries to try to pilot this approach for the very first plans where we can work with the country. It's not necessarily programs out of scratch. In many cases, it makes sense to work with the programs that the countries have and want to improve, to scale up. There are many such situations, and we are very grateful that from those countries, two that have come forward very strongly are from this region. So Haiti and Dominican Republic, which you'll hear from in the panel, are working with the Alliance support mechanism to put in place the consistent request for support for a cash transfer program. In the case of Haiti, consolidating programs that are there and in this fragmented way, and try to build a really strong national program that has its own social registries and systems. And in the case of the Dominican Republic, the flagship Superate program, we also hear more from today, which is already very well consolidated, innovative, and so the support is seeking to scale up and perfect some of its elements with the alliance. So it will all depend not only on the countries which are doing their part already, but also on the willingness of the partners, the donors, the multilaterals, to try to adjust what they have been doing. So instead of doing each one their own things, they have their budget cycles, they have their councils, they have their procedures, but something needs to be done differently to allow this increased flexibility and increased support for a single large-scale country program that can be lasting, that can eventually be fully autonomous by the country, fully supported by the national budget, and so on, and really create a difference in the lives of the poorest and most vulnerable in that country. So that is the scenario that we have now, and I think this will be discussed in Seville. There are many activities going on to try to create more momentum on different aspects of this architecture, or working with the existing architecture, but try to make it better. And we'll hear from those plans from more of those in the panel today, so thank you.
Vice Minister for International Affairs at the Ministry of Finance of Brazil.
I'll also speak in English then for the benefit of all. Mas bem-vindos ao Brasil. Boa tarde a todos. So, welcome to Brazil, to Brasilia. It's a pleasure to be speaking in the context of the Caribbean Development Bank annual meeting. It's a pleasure for us to meet you here. I am Secretary Tatiana Rosito from the Ministry of Finance, and it's also a pleasure to speak after Renato Godinho, with whom we have worked very closely since last year, to turn this vision of President Lula into really a global initiative, which I think it is by now, but it's good to see also the implementation going on. We have many challenges, and I also welcome very much those that will take part in the panel, starting from Minister Alfred, from Haiti, Annette from IDB, and also the representatives from CAF and from the Caribbean Development Bank. I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone, but I think it's very timely that this panel is organized, and it's really a pleasure to speak before you, to share part of what we have been doing to help structure the financial pillar of the global alliance. It's some data is still really shocks us, right? The fact that Latin American and the Caribbean have about 11% of their populations in extreme poverty. The fact that over 240 million people suffer from food insecurity, and also over 40 million actually face chronic hunger. So this is very shocking to us. I also must say that, and it's of course, I think the revolt that comes from that is the origin of the Global Alliance. We have seen actually, but it's possible, right? It's possible to I just want also to give, to start with some optimism and to refer to some of the data in Brazil. In a very short span of time, from 2022 to now, citizens suffering from hunger in Brazil declined from 14 million, so from about over 17 million to 2.5 million in 2 years. So this is the result, the direct result of policy actions that aim at specific target actions in terms of hunger and poverty, including, again, revaluation of the minimum wage, including specific policies related to Bolsa Família, and also targeted policies in terms of small agriculture farmers, also our programs, our specific programs at schools for school meals. So really, as we have, in a recent event spoken about, this is really just the result of political decisions, right? So we might as well, in the region, as we are doing here, decide to come together in a more structured way to help combat hunger and poverty. And I think that's what we are trying in the last year during the Brazilian G20. I think we are very proud to have launched an initiative that is not meant to be a Brazilian initiative. It's meant to be a global initiative and to cater for everyone, so that now the fact that we can count on over 188 members, it's really fills us with pride, and especially also with members in the region, in our region, Latin America, and the Caribbean. It's no surprise to us that we are facing, especially when we come from the side of ministries of finance, we are facing very serious restrictions in fiscal terms overall globally. We face high debt or indebtedness ratios. We see also setbacks in terms of official development assistance. We were very far from the historic target of 0.7% of GDP. We're about half of it, but most recently we see also setbacks, specifically declines in ODA, that will add also to the challenge that we have. So in this context, this call for us to tackle issues like fragmentation, lack of coordination, but also do the positive, on the positive side, come together, share our experiences, put it together in a structured way, like was highlighted by Renato Godinho. We are not creating exactly new funds, but we are trying to streamline what we have, to act in a more coordinated way, to share our wisdom, our collective global wisdom, because it has to be local too. We cannot just replicate as much as the initiatives that we have in different countries are very important, and their main ideas are to be disseminated. Each country will find its own path, and but the fact that we can come together, and especially in person here, I think it's something to be cherished. We, on the part of also the ministries of finance, and since our presidency of G20 last year, we have been also working very closely with the MDBs on a large agenda that actually resulted with the partners of G20 and the MDBs on a vision for the medium to long term, the G20 MDB roadmap for better, bigger, and more effective MDBs. This is one of the initiatives that we took. And now, for the G20 countries, we are working on a monitoring framework, monitoring and implementation framework together with the banks. But I think what is important is what is in there, the fact that we want to put the countries in the driver's seat. We want to see more operational reforms, easier of access. We want to see banks even working more and more and taking and benefiting, from their capacity, not only in terms of resources, but also of knowledge aggregators, of capacity building. I think this comes very strongly in the Global Alliance. So we have been working also very closely with MDBs and climate funds to incentivize them to take part. Now I think I lost count. It is 11 now in total, 11 banks and funds that are members. But when we started, this always started last year in October. We had less, and so we are seeing more and more banks coming in, and it's a great joy to see that the Caribbean Development Bank will also join the alliance. Less than a month ago, we had IFAD. And the African Development, in an IFAD event, we had the African Development Bank joining the alliances, and we already have also many of these actions, these fast-track actions also in Africa. So this is very important to us. We are also trying to work, and this came, was we made an effort to put some of the issues that we find fundamental at the table and to be discussed, to be at the center of the agenda since Brazil's G20 presidency last year. And some of those are innovative financing mechanisms. They have been discussed, of course, for a long time, but we made a point of really putting them in the center of the agenda. And even though it's difficult actually to put them sometimes in place and to have them working in a global scale, we have to start from somewhere. So that's why we have supported the IDB African Development Bank initiative for the channeling of SDRs to MDBs, so we can leverage more on these resources. This had been approved by the IMF board in May last year, and it's continued to be an initiative that we support and that we try to push for in different fora. Now, another one is also the debt swaps, debt for health, debt for development. I see it today, and I also it's very encouraging that Spain has been working on this mechanism as one of the central innovative mechanisms for the fourth Financing for Development conference, Seville. So, which we are actually where we are going also to meet again in the end of this month. It was not that evident, I'll tell you, from the beginning of Brazilian G20. It was very difficult to put these mechanisms, bring them back to the center of the agenda. But we found a lot of interest, not as a solution, a structural solution to debt issues, which are also part of, I think, all the enabling environment where we find so many challenges, including hunger and poverty, but as a voluntary mechanism that can enjoy greater scale. That's why we value very much Spain's actually initiative on this area. We also supporting on our side the expansion of the supporting mechanism that was described by Godinho, so that will have at an FAO will have this supporting mechanism working, but with arms in Addis Abeba and Washington DC, hopefully to start with, and then we can have all the arms too, and also here in the region. I understand also there has been talks for a mechanism of regional development banks to support the alliance. I think this would be a very, very important. We are, I think on this, on the way to the financing for development, I think another, I'm not sure if there is anyone from BNDES here, but something that we have been also pushing very much is the involvement of national development banks in a closer in close contact with MDBs to help push different initiatives. This is so very much for infrastructure, but it need not be only infrastructure. I think also for poverty and hunger, this is also crucial. I just to conclude, I think that. And you know, in last year we worked in two central global initiatives in the G20. One was the Global Alliance, and other was the Task Force on Climate for global mobilization. And we were already aiming at what was going to happen this year at the fourth Financing for Development Conference and at Brazilian COP32. And given the huge impact also of climate on all activities, not least agriculture and small farm holders, the relationship between poverty, hunger, and climate is crucial. So we are continue to work on many of these priorities in a circle of finance ministers that has been established by the president of COP30, Ambassador Lago. So we are working on five priorities to help mobilize resources, or from the 300 billion concessional resources approved in COP29, that should flow from developed to developing countries, all the way to 1.3 trillion to be mobilized for climate finance up to 2035. This is also a part, and a great part of it, are concessional resources and better ways to mobilize both concessional resources from multilateral development banks, climate funds, national development banks, and private sector, better regulations. And I think this agenda is also very convergent, because we will not succeed in other agendas if we cannot really find a solution for more smooth financing of you know, how to address climate change, mostly through, you know, national solutions, but that should really be supported by global alliances. So with that, I really encourage you. We are open at the Ministry of Finance in our purview, and the Ministry of Planning of Brazil also is in charge of the regional development banks. We are in charge of the so-called global development banks. But what is important is that working, I think, together, we will continue to encourage this MDB agenda, and in particular, in favor of this structural alliance. One final word, because I didn't mention another initiative that I think is very important, which is also to tie up IDA also, and we just had the conclusion of IDA replenishment last year, IDA from the World Bank to the Global Alliance and Poverty. We are also working on that. So I think the MDB's agenda overall is very important, and please count on us on this agenda, and I'm looking forward to the discussions in the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Renata, for the inspiring words, and also calling us to the need to work together on the implementation of the initiatives of the Global Alliance. And this sets the scene for our next chapter of this panel, which is a dialogue. We have today distinguished panelists who bring diverse perspectives and critical insights from across Latin America and the Caribbean on the implementation and the financing of initiatives under the Global Alliance. May I invite our distinguished panelists to come to the stage. His Excellency Alfred Metelus, I think I Division Chief of the Social Sector Division of the Caribbean Development Board. So we will begin with His Excellency Alfred Metenus, Minister of Finance of Haiti. Haiti has been advancing its national plan to strengthen cash transfer programs. Minister, the floor is yours. Anderson, Minister, will have translation. Yes?
have a major problem with the fight against inequality.
Et la situation en Haïti s'est aggravée. Haïti est un pays importateur net de produits agricoles.
This particular problem is actually somewhat reversed in Haiti. Haiti is actually, the situation has worsened. Haiti has actually been a net importer of agricultural products.
Donc comme un pays et une île, Haïti subit l'évolution des prix sur le marché international.
So as a small island, Haiti is buffeted by the pressures of the international economy.
Donc automatiquement, ça pourrait contribuer à augmenter le niveau de pauvreté et de personnes faisant face à la question de la faim.
So that tends to aggravate the poverty situation and people situations of chronic hunger.
Et à cause des problèmes sécuritaires que nous faisons face actuellement, vous savez que les gangs se sont beaucoup développés à cause de la pauvreté et une bonne partie de la capitale. Et Haïti est un pays extrêmement concentré. Toutes les activités, et 80% des activités sont concentrées à la capitale. Donc maintenant, le fait que les gangs attaquent la capitale, et ça a un grave impact sur le reste du pays.
As a result of all this, Haiti has been, as you're aware, the security situation is such that gangs are now, which are themselves issued from the poverty situation of the country. They are now gangs. Haiti is a highly concentrated country with the capital area responsible for over 80% of national production, and so as the gangs now attack the capital area, the situation just worsens.
Donc, Haïti fait face actuellement à plusieurs types de crises. Une crise économique, et le pays n'a pas connu de croissance pendant 6 ans, et on risque d'avoir une 7e année de croissance, et on risque de ne pas avoir une autre année de croissance, et Haïti fait face à une crise sécuritaire et qui provoque plus de millions de personnes ont laissé leur foyer pour aller vivre dans des camps, et une crise humanitaire et même une crise d'accès aux services sociaux, et près de 40% des écoles se trouvant dans l'aire métropolitaine de Port-au-Prince et sont inaccessibles parce que les gangs contrôlent ces écoles.
Haiti is confronted, as we speak, with several levels of crises. The first is obviously an economic one. Haiti has now undergone 6 consecutive years of negative GDP growth. This year will likely be a 7th. Haiti's before a security crisis, which itself has created also a social services crisis. 40% of the schools are closed, and a significant number of children in the population cannot attend school because those schools have been are now in areas that are controlled by gangs. And the fourth is a crisis, a humanitarian crisis, as you are well aware.
Donc, là, comme la vice-ministre a dit, nous n'avons pas seulement besoin de ressources financières, nous sommes très ouverts à toutes sortes d'assistance technique, knowledge, qui peuvent nous permettre de faire face à cette situation.
So what we need is not just financial help. As the Vice Minister made clear, we are in such crises such situations are multifaceted, and Haiti is open, therefore, to all levels of support and assistance that can help deal with these various situations.
Et la conséquence de toute cette crise, c'est l'augmentation de la pauvreté. Le taux de pauvreté atteint près de 36%. Et avec la crise sécuritaire, et maintenant, le taux de pauvreté atteint près de 40% de la population.
As a result of all this, the percentage of the population under the poverty threshold is 36%, and it's been increasing, and it's likely to continue to go higher as a result of this economic crisis, as a result of this security crisis.
Et parlant de famine et d'insécurité alimentaire, près de 50% de la population souffre de l'insécurité alimentaire.
And as a result, more than 50% of the population finds itself in a food insecurity situation.
Donc on a 11 millions d'habitants, il y a plus de 7,5 millions d'habitants qui ont des difficultés d'avoir accès à de la nourriture chaque jour.
We have a population of 11 million, and more than 5.5 million of those people find themselves below the food insecurity threshold.
Et comme a dit le premier intervenant, on a un système de protection sociale qui n'est pas structurellement et institutionnellement bien mis en place.
And our social safety net is structurally not adequate, not well in place in order to address this situation.
Et nous avons reçu beaucoup de ressources venant de la BID, de la Banque mondiale et de l'USAID, malheureusement. Et c'est un choc que nous recevons lorsque le gouvernement américain avait annoncé l'arrêt de l'aide américaine.
So we received significant assistance from the World Bank, the IDB, from USAID up until recently, and so it was quite a shock to see that particular aspect evaporate over the last few months.
L'aide américaine au secteur santé représente 2 fois le budget alloué, les ressources allouées par le gouvernement au secteur de la santé.
To give
Donc,
you an example, USAID assistance to the health sector represented twice or three times, twice the budget of the government to the health sector.
donc imaginez l'impact de cette aide sur les gens souffrant du sida. Et même il y a des personnes, je suis au Brésil, je dois soulever ça, il y a même des gens en Haïti, et j'ai participé à une conférence de presse avec l'association des gens souffrant du sida et qui reçoivent le ARV venant des États-Unis.
So you can just imagine, in Haiti, a lot of the people who suffer from HIV, I participated in a conference recently of people who are AID sufferers who received their retrovirus medication from the United States.
Comme nous sommes au Brésil, c'est comme une mission qu'ils m'ont confiée de discuter avec le gouvernement du Brésil de produire de l'ARV en Haïti.
Yeah, so there's even been talk, maybe that other places other than the United States, maybe if they produce such medication, perhaps can make some of it available to Haiti.
Donc, on voit qu'il y a beaucoup de besoins. Le PNUD avait évalué à près de 908 millions de dollars les besoins financiers pour faire face aux besoins de la population.
UNDP had recently estimated at over $900 million the gap needed to address the urgent needs of the population.
Donc, qu'est-ce que nous pouvons proposer en termes de financement alternatif?
So the question becomes, what can we propose together in terms of alternative financing?
D'abord, il faut stopper l'aide alimentaire que les pays développés envoient aux pays sous-développés pour combattre la faim.
Number one, we need to put a stop to food assistance that the wealthier countries provide to the poorer countries such as Haiti.
Parce que l'aide alimentaire, d'abord, ça prouve un changement dans le système alimentaire des Haïtiens.
Because first of all, it produces unintentionally a shift in the consumption patterns of the population.
Et deuxièmement, quand l'aide alimentaire arrive, le prix des produits locaux chute, donc moins de revenus pour les agriculteurs et plus de pauvreté.
So, and then secondly, once the food assistance arrives, it tends to drive down prices, which then reduces the income of agricultural producers and creates even more poverty.
Il faudrait mobiliser des ressources pour financer la production et l'exportation des fruits et légumes vers les marchés des pays développés.
It would be much better to provide incentives and assistance to national food production that can be consumed in Haiti and in certain cases can be exported to the richer markets.
Et pourquoi? Quand l'Amérique du Sud l'Amérique du Sud produit, nous en Haïti, on est en train de planter.
So, in fact, let's take a look. When most of South America is
produit export.
Is producing and exporting, we are in the process of planting at that point.
Donc on peut profiter, un pays comme Haïti, comme la République dominicaine, et même tous les pays de la Caraïbe, peut profiter la chaîne de logistique et des pays de l'Amérique du Sud, Brésil, l'Argentine, Pérou, etc. Et pendant que c'est l'hiver ici, aux États-Unis, c'est l'été.
So
Donc,
there are opportunities to take advantage of the counter-cyclical production systems, agricultural production systems, if we can in some way integrate ourselves and make use of the production chains and marketing chains of the countries in South America that already are ahead of us in this particular respect.
la lutte contre la faim, c'est une question de création de richesse et de création d'emplois.
In the end, the fight against poverty, the fight production.
Et un bon système de
Our estimate is that in order to put together a serious system of social protection, we need about $100 million a year.
ces 100 millions de dollars devraient être utilisés comme subvention aux gens qui se trouvent dans la pauvreté, mais à ceux qui produisent les biens agricoles.
And the idea is that this 100 million would not simply go to the poor and the hungry, but to those in some way, to those who actually can produce and by increasing production help reduce poverty and hunger.
Enfin, lutter contre la pauvreté, contre la faim, c'est de développer les infrastructures.
So in the end, the best way to fight hunger and poverty is to create the infrastructures that allow for more production.
Et ça permet de faire baisser les coûts de production.
It goes straight toward reducing production costs
Et aussi les coûts de transaction.
and transaction costs.
Je n'ai pas eu le temps de parler des petites et moyennes entreprises. Et généralement, il faut penser à faciliter l'accès de ces petites et moyennes entreprises au financement.
I didn't have the time to bring into the discussion small and medium enterprises, but part of my concern about that I just stated about production costs implies integrating into the system small and medium enterprises who can produce.
Pour terminer, je dois remercier le traducteur pour le bon travail réalisé.
Yeah, that's not my day job, but
Thank you very much, His Excellency. This has been a very powerful experience from Haiti. I'm now honored to invite Ms. Naomi Arboleda Castillo to join us online. Do we have her online? Yes? Naomi, she's coordinator of economic inclusion for external projects at the Superate program in the Dominican Republic. Superate is a socioeconomic inclusion program that aims to support approximately 1 million participating families to achieve financial independence and long-term sustainability in their jobs or business over the next decade. Now we have Naomi online. Very nice to have you, Naomi. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to express how to strategize what we need to do, what we want to do. It's a privilege to share our country's commitment to fighting poverty and hunger through innovative, inclusive, and human-centered approach. Our main vehicle for this is the national program Supera, and more specifically, our transformative strategy called Atrévete a Soñar, or Dare to Dream. A little bit of the background of the program is, well, despite decades of sustained economic growth that the Dominican Republic has had, it continues to face persistent poverty and inequality. There are several structural gaps in access to quality jobs, to the basic services, to economic mobility, and these are elements that still hold back millions of people, especially women, youth, and low families. Learning through the limitations of our previous platform, before Progresando con Solidaridad, which focused primarily on assistance, in 2021 we launched the preparatory program, which is a more integrated and business system for social protection and economic inclusion. Preparatory at the moment reaches 40% of the Dominican population, and it represents 1.5% of national GDP, which demonstrates the importance that the Dominican government has placed on social protection. It combines emergency cash transfers, a national care system, graduation pathways towards financial independence, and the comprehensive strategy Atrévete a Soñar, or Dare to Dream, which unifies all efforts in a single route out of poverty, which is called La Ruta de Superación. In 2023, this model was institutionalized through Decree 160/25, creating the Dirección de Desarrollo Social Supérate, which is the centralized body that allows for more coordinated, localized, and strategic implementation. Please let me know if you could hear me well, if everyone can listen. Yes?
Yes, we do hear you.
Okay, thank you. Just to be sure that the communication is okay. Well, Atrévete a Soñar is our national strategy for human development. It is rooted in a holistic understanding of poverty, not only of a lack of income, but also of autonomy, of emotional well-being, of education, skills, and opportunity. What makes this strategy unique is that we have designed it around people's aspirations. We start by listening what individuals dream for their lives and then align public policies to support those dreams. Our approach is a territorial, humanistic, and experiential approach, and we focus on strengthening each person's capacity for transformation through personal development, vocational training, community engagement, and economic integration. More than a program, it's sufficient to restore the dignity and the hope of that vulnerable population. Our experience is that throughout the years, public policies are basically defined from a more unilateral view. In this vision, we have understood that you have to listen to the people in order to develop a more public policies that really respond to their needs. Our objectives, we have very clear objectives throughout this 10 years, and basically throughout the Global Alliance, we have been working in understanding the budget requirements, how do we scale, and that has been part of the work that we've been working throughout this week with the acceleration team. At the moment, by end 2024, it's good to comment a little bit. We have impacted over 35,000 families throughout the emergency fund, and as I expressed before, 40% of the population is being impacted by the social program. Where are we? Well, while Atrévete a Soñar, we are still in a pilot phase. We are building on a solid foundation and support with a project called Inspire Project that is co-financed by the World Bank. And there are several key innovations within this program, within this project, which is first, we are creating personalized development pathways based on individual profiles. We are working on real-time monitoring dashboards using artificial intelligence that would allow to see where the beneficiary is at all times. Also, we have designed and we are working on a very robust mentorship and support system that integrates social workers and local facilitators. And all of this is worked with an integration between several public institutions like Infotech, which has the capacity building strategies, the Ministry of Labor, and local government. Just to resume, to scale this strategy nationally, significant investment is required. While important contributions have already been mobilized through international cooperation and national resources, additional support is essential to ensure full implementation and long-term impact. Basically, we're seeking technical finance and financial partnerships in areas such as capacity building for territorial and frontline staff, real-time digital tools to make a more robust interoperable monitoring and evaluation systems, and to strengthen community infrastructure and support. All of this with a gender-responsive and climate-adaptive strategy. So we understand that the Global Alliance has a pivotal role to play, not only in funding, but in fostering peer learning, strategic partnership, and South-to-South cooperation. So thank you very much for this invitation. We hope that even if we couldn't participate physically, you took a grasp of what we're doing in the Dominican Republic, but we are aiming to reach, and we are very pleased to participate in the Global Alliance strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Now moving from tacit country-led policies to the critical question of how to finance them, I would like to invite my colleagues from the development banks to the second half of the panel and brainstorm together with us on how to work together in a more effective way to address hunger and poverty. It's my pleasure to invite Annette Bettina Kilmer. Annette is representative of the Inter-American Development Bank in Brazil. The IDB is a member of the Alliance Board of Champions and was a key partner at the development of the G20 roadmap for bigger, better, and more effective MDBs last year during Brazil's G20 presidency. Thank you very much, Annette.
Thank you very much. Muito boa tarde a todas e a todos. É uma enorme honra de fazer parte desse painel. E apesar de que adoro falar português, for the benefit of everyone in the room, I will switch to English. I understand there's good translation just in case, but I'm sure everybody here will be more than comfortable. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organization of this panel. I think following the minister's words, it's difficult to be more clear, eloquent, and at the same time humbling about just how important of a topic this is. It's quite difficult to follow in your footsteps, Minister. So I would like to thank Secretary Tatiana Rosito, the Ministry for Social Development, Assistance, Family and the Fight Against Hunger, here represented by Renato Godinho, as well as the Minister and colleagues from the other MDBs for this conversation, which is a priority for the region. And as the Secretary Tatiana Rosito already pointed out, something that is not just already very important to address, but will be increasingly important to address in the context of climate change. So this is an agenda that, if not addressed systematically, has a chance of actually getting worse, unfortunately. And I think that's a very hard thing to say after the words of what we just heard from Minister Mettelos about the situation in Haiti. So first of all, I think in terms of innovative mechanisms that are related to finance for the fight against hunger and poverty, I would first of all like to congratulate President Lula and the administration for something that's actually a political mechanism, which is bringing this as a central topic to the G20, making this center stage at a discussion of the 20 world economies that can really change something fundamentally in this discussion. And putting it that centrally, giving it that importance, is one of the mechanisms I think that will prove most effective in bringing finance to this topic. The Alliance also brings another really important thing to this debate, which is the policy basket. These are proven solutions that work. There's evidence. We know that with whatever money we have available, these are effective ways to address the problems of poverty and hunger, but at the same time they give the flexibility by offering the policy basket to address it in correspondence to the needs and demands and the possibilities of each country. So first innovative mechanism here, really highlighting the importance of that, which is much more political but ultimately absolutely essential to secure the financing. Now, as was already mentioned at the IDB, we're very happy to be a part of the Alliance from the beginning, and as part of the Alliance and also of the Conselho de Campeões, of the Champions Committee? Board of Champions, thank you. I told you I was happy to talk in Portuguese. But, the IDB is actually committed to providing $25 billion between 2025 and 2030, which amounts to approximately 140 billion reais. Through the work we are doing in the region. So some of the work, as was mentioned by Renato Godinho, will be through accelerated programs. We already heard from Haiti and República Dominicana. We are very proud to be able to accompany that as well, jointly with the World Bank, as well as the FAO and the World Food Program. In that context, I would like to reiterate what was already mentioned by Renato about the importance of this being coordinated by the countries and the financing, really, the entities that are supporting the financing, supporting what was agreed by the country. So it's not each financial partner is figuring out what they would like to do and then, let's see if that's actually complementary, but rather the importance of that mechanism that you have in this case, even a fast track to decide what is really needed, and then the financing architecture, the entities of the financing architecture come together to actually support that in a systematic and a coordinated way. We are very happy to be part of that, and we're also, the numbers were very clear that the Minister mentioned, but we're also very happy, and I believe my colleagues would echo that sentiment, that in addition to whatever financing corresponds to this specific initiative, to the solutions that are available through the policy basket, we also support countries obviously through complementary actions. So in the case of Haiti, we have a long-standing collaboration. Most of it, we're very proud to say actually, all of it has been grant-based, and the the IDB is committed to approving $180 million to support, and again, these are grant resources, to support projects, for example, for school meals, for social protection, for inclusion, for investment in nutrition, especially for young mothers and pregnant women, and for neonatal and infant health. So these are, in addition to the direct focus of the Alliance, I think it's also important to highlight, and I think the Minister has done this, that there's a sort of a direct action and there's indirect actions you can support, such as, for example, fostering productivity in the agricultural sector, constructing, for example, building bioeconomic activity, building employment opportunities. All of that can actually help the Alliance in direct and indirect ways. Looking more specifically at instruments, actually, Secretaria Rosito has sort of stolen a little bit of my thunder. So she already mentioned the SDRs, the special drawdown rights, also the debt for nature swaps. These are some of instruments that we've been working with quite recently. Something that's very interesting in the debt for nature swaps, we're actually using guarantees rather than investment. We're rather using guarantees, either investment-based guarantees or policy-based guarantees that can attract additional financing or improved market conditions. And by reducing the debt burden, therefore, on the countries, that differential can then be used, or is then in these debt for nature swaps, used specifically in order to finance government programs, which our experience so far has been more in the direction of climate and environmental protection, but we're now increasingly working on social protection as well to make use of these instruments. Blended finance, I think everybody is already quite familiar with, but I would like to highlight a point that has also been touched on by Secretaria Rosito, which is that link between the climate financing and using climate financing in order to promote the agenda to fight hunger and poverty. Again, these are very intricately linked, but also we know that there's quite a bit of financing available for climate, and the projects that we can use to directly address climate obviously are also very important. But more and more, especially for the Latin American and Caribbean region, what we're seeing is the need to really foster adaptation. And so a lot of the financing that speaks to adaptation speaks directly to agriculture. We know that the most affected populations are the most vulnerable populations. So again, climate is linked to poverty. Schools, education. We know that, for example, there's a lot of focus on the COP30. We know that in Pará, school children are affected by the heat. So the level of absence by children in schools is directly linked to the reading on the thermometer that day. So again, what can we do using some of these funds that are available for climate in order to promote better attendance at school, which will translate into better education, which will translate into better opportunities in the labor market, which will translate into better productivity, which will translate into a smaller chance of remaining in the poverty cycle. So definitely some very interesting mechanisms that can be used with creativity and goodwill, and I think the Alliance is really that. It sort of really brings together a number of key players with a very well-constructed, evidence-based pool of solutions, a number of partners that are interested and willing to bring financial mechanisms to this question, and in a systematic way help countries that know very well what the issues are. Just heard also from República Dominicana. The issues are identified, the solutions are identified, so the Alliance is really helping all of us to work together to make a difference on the ground by implementing these solutions. Very happy to be part of that, and thank you very much again for bringing this panel together.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. It's now my pleasure to invite Estefania Laterza, a representative of the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean in Brazil. CAF was the first MDB to join the Global Alliance Against Poverty and Hunger and Poverty, underscoring the commitment to advancing innovative financing solutions in the region. Ms. Laterza, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Karen. Good afternoon to everyone here. It's really a pleasure to be here sharing some thoughts on the Global Alliance on Hunger and Poverty. It is really, really good to be here because it means that this effort that started like a little longer than a year ago, it's like finally is something that we can translate into better lives for everyone. I mean, I remember when we first started talking about this alliance, I have to be honest here, we were very full of doubts. I mean, I've been working first for the state and afterwards for CAF, which is a Latin American for development. And I've heard many, many different types of structures that were meant to deal with poverty and things of that sort, problems. But it's still under go. For some time, it's like we forgot about poverty, especially when the pandemics came. We all started talking about the pandemics and we just stopped talking about poverty. We stopped talking about hunger. Even though we have the SDGs and we know that the SDGs 1 and 2 mandates us to end the poverty and the hunger in the world, nobody talked about that anymore. So it was a great relief to see how President Lula decided to put those efforts again on the agenda. And it was even a much better relief when we saw that it was like becoming a very innovative structure. But normally, I mean, I used to be a diplomat in my former life. We were very used to deal with comas and with texts, and with conventions, and with all sorts of instruments. And unfortunately, not all of them end up in something positive. I mean, sometimes we just have a very good, a very nice declaration. We congratulate us all. We take a very nice picture. And in the end, I mean, it turns out into, I don't know, maybe a poor results. So seeing that these efforts were transforming into something different in a bunch of policies, in ways to look for financing hunger and the poverty solutions translated into policies actually was like a relief for all of us. So, I mean, that's the reason why CAF was the first multilateral development bank to join the Global Alliance. I thought, I mean, this is a great opportunity to be there. Normally in developing banks here in the region, we are most of the time talking about finances. We're talking about infrastructure and talking about concrete and talking about great infrastructure constructions, etc. We talk about a bridge, we talk about, anyways, many other stuff. But in the last years, I mean, we also are talking about our green agendas and climate change fight and also about our people's lives, because this is our main goal, to impact in people's lives. And what is most important, to start by what is affecting them most. Okay, so that's the reason why we decided, okay, we have to be the first to say yes. We have to go there, especially. We have to be able to show how much our work aligns with this new structure that is being built. So now what I would really like is to bring here some samples of what we've been doing in align with the efforts of the Global Alliance. And I'm going to start talking about first, we are financing structural program projects, which is like the obvious, in areas like housing, water, sanitation, health, education, resilient agriculture, and much more. In the past, we used to focus more exactly in this, in housing, water, and sanitation, etc. But lately, we are focusing more in areas such as health and education and agriculture and such. Second, we are very much focusing on strengthening local capacities through technical cooperation and knowledge sharing. And third, of course, we are advancing financial innovations to better align incentive with development goals. So I will try to bring some examples here of our work. One of them, our first example, sets in Brazil, which illustrates our integrated approach, which is a technical cooperation project supporting agroecological transition in agrarian reform settlements. This aims at projects which are led by women farmers. It promotes food security, gender inclusion, income generation, and environmental restoration aligned with Brazil's commitments for COP. This is a cooperation which is starting right now, but we think that it's going to be key for future endeavors. Because if it works out the way we think it's going to work out, then we will be able to scale and to go with projects like this all over Brazil, and who knows, I mean, all over the region. As the minister was saying, I mean, these type of projects are key because they are targeted at fighting hunger and at the same time to bring in knowledge, which is very needed in order to fight hunger and poverty. Also in the financial sectors and through innovations, we launched PBOX, a sovereign finance mechanisms that offer better loan conditions linked to social and environmental outcomes. We have a pilot in Mexico which targets emission reductions and poverty alleviation among women. CAF has also issued social bonds raising over $1 billion for projects in 7 countries. These funds have expanded access to clean water, food system, health, education for low-income communities, among others. Also, we are strengthening the regional development finance ecosystem, partnering with subnational and public development banks to reach the most vulnerable areas. A prime example is our financing to Insecurity, awarded social loan of a year in 2025. We support from JICA over 1.5 billion reais, which were mobilized to support family farming with families of low HDI municipalities and women-led businesses. On the knowledge front, we work with the CLAC and UNDP to advance the multidimensional poverty index for Latin America, including variables like internet access and job quality. We are also supporting this. We believe that better data leads to better action and that sound policies must be built on evidence. And looking ahead to Seville, we reaffirm our goal to mobilize more than 22 billion by 2035 for projects directly targeting hunger and poverty. Member countries and partners, including ECLAC, UNDP, and PAHO, to promote local solutions with global ambition. Failures. But as I think it was Tatiana that says that this can be overcome, and Brazil shows that example, because here in Brazil, I mean, you've been able to really decrease poverty in a very good quality policies. We can get there. So what we really need to do is use these new ones in order to align our efforts, concentrate them to try to aim and focus on these results. As CAF, we are ready to join others' efforts to keep in order to achieve these results. And also, we are decided in everything we do, inside CAF and outside, with every partner we are building something, we have to introduce this dimension, which should focus first on people, and especially on those who suffer hunger. Because I mean, we cannot deal with other problems if we first do not attack these problems. This panel, let me congratulate you for the efforts that you're putting into this. I know it's very hard to come with something that makes sense for everyone, but I'm very sure that we're going to time, and you can always count on us for making this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefania. I now welcome Martin Baptiste, Division Chief of the Social Sector Division at the Caribbean Development Bank. The CDB is the newest member of the Global Alliance, and we are honored to have your engagement in this important effort. Mr. Baptiste, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's good that I'm coming at the end, so that because everything I can just confirm and indicate that what has been said before is consistent with CDP's work, and we can just end and leave now. But I know that it would benefit you if this theme is appropriate. It's about looking at innovating financing mechanisms to address poverty and hunger. And I'm thinking that we need to, reaffirm that if we're talking about innovative financing, I'm talking about the AAA designation that financing must have. And Minister, you spoke very eloquently about it. By that I mean, if the financing isn't relevant to the country's unique circumstances, then that financing is not meaningful. And by that I mean, and I mentioned, and I'm glad, whatever we are financing is directly aligned to the country's priorities, and to make sure that the country come along and to advance that work. The example you give, Minister, is telling. If we're talking about food security, it makes more sense to focus not on delivery of food, but on productivity. And so innovative financing would target interventions that build the system of sustainable development. In the second case, it's one to be appropriate, but then the funding must be available, which means that we must have it to countries. And so what we need to do is to continue interrogating the extent to which we can work together to not only what we can mobilize through our bilateral efforts, but I think importantly now we're thinking about enlisting the private sector and philanthropic entities to see how they can be part of this global alliance to make sure that we are making every resource available. But it's one thing to be appropriate. It's a line to country program. We have the resources, but it makes no sense if it's not accessible. To what extent those resources actually reach the ground? Fairly seamless access to those resources. And that's why we talk about how we can collaborate as partners to make sure that, for example, we systems, we make sure that we build capacity in countries so that countries aren't burdened to implement projects. The transaction cost is going to be a lot lower, so that in the quickest possible time, so the impact is felt. For us at CDB, poverty and just hunger is the DNA of our work. The bank's core mandate is poverty reduction in the region. And to that end, what we have done over the years is to see how every operation The bank, for example, has a dedicated line addressed to poverty reduction. We spoke in this annual meeting about the Special Development Fund, the 11th cycle that was approved in March. But within that, we have our Basic Needs Trust Fund program, which is the bank's signature poverty reduction program. Community-led and community-based. It is aligned to what countries need to do at the community level so that the resources get to those who are greatest in need and address their peculiar needs. One of the other areas that we try to, again, make resources available, CDB is the region's development. So the bank has been the conduit through which both IDB and EIB and other partners have been able to channel resources to, for example, the countries in the Organization of Eastern Caribbean through CDB, and we really value that partnership. And we think the more we can leverage that, the better it is. So those countries can be responsive to countries in the Caribbean, because we live in a disaster vulnerable area. One of the areas that we have in fact also supported financing has to do in supporting insurance against natural hazards. Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF program, so that countries are able to receive resources as soon as a natural hazard event happens, so they can get those resources to do immediate post-disaster recovery and to get going. And so we've done that with Jamaica, Antigua, Grenada, St. Vincent and St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadines and St. Lucia. Ways in which we try to be agile and to see how we can always organize the mechanisms that are available to us to make sure that we can maximize the resources. In terms of what we can, one of the mechanisms that we have theme bonds. There have been SDG theme bonds, and a few years ago we started on that we are hoping possibly this year, if market conditions are appropriate, that we would seek to raise the SDG theme bonds, which really is about leveraging the projects we have in our pipeline to targeting those specific projects that are linked to poverty reduction and addressing hunger. So the bonds that are directly related to ameliorating and addressing the issue. And so I just wanted to mention that, and of course to concur with the others. Guarantees is another issue. We've been working with our partners to do collaboration. We would have mentioned in our board meeting last month has executed the exposure exchange agreement with CABE so that we have a greater fiscal space to make resources available. And just 1 hour ago, or even less than that, just signed a memorandum of understanding so that we can both work together to address food and water, private sector, and digitalization. So those are ways in which we focus on what's appropriate, what's available, what's accessible, but critically to work with our partners to make sure that we are able to respond. And again, Chair, we're very glad to be a part of the Alliance, and we look forward to fully participating and seeing the extent of poverty and hunger across the world.
And we are very happy to have CGB and all, and really happy to see so many opportunities to work together going forward. Thank you all very much. all the speakers for the rich and engaging discussion today. As I said, may today's discussion list for stronger collaboration, for bolder financing solutions to end hunger and poverty across our region. So thank you very much. Thank you.